We did talk about. Are we recording? We're good? Okay. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. I'm gonna start by taking roll from my left.
E.G. Zimmerman.
Roland Johnston.
Rob Delmas.
Elida Snow.
Andrew Higgins.
Tony Rebo, Walter Schneider, Cody Katzler.
At this time, I invite any member of the audience to make any public comment on any non-agenda item. Okay. I would like to introduce Andrew. He's going to kind of go through the rules and stuff for us here before we get started, and then we'll go ahead and start the interview.
Thanks, folks. I just want to take a quick moment to review a statute you all are already aware of, but I like to go through it at the beginning of these things just so everyone's on the same page. In terms of the questions that we have prepared, I want to commend you. I think you guys have picked the best set of questions for the bank of interview questions that was provided. In terms of how you ask those questions, you do have a limited ability to ask a follow-up question. You want more information, if you want someone to expand on something that's within the scope of the original question, you have the ability to do so. As you are asking those follow-up questions, you must still abide by that statute that I sent you prior to this meeting, section 49-3-201, that dictates that you are to make any decisions regarding employment of public employees regarding merit and qualifications only, and without regard to any of the protected classes. And I will state those really quick: race, color, religion, creed, political ideas, sex, age, marital status, physical or mental disability, or national origin. We've been through the statute both during board trainings and prior to today's training, or today's meeting, that is. If I hear anything that steps outside of that, I will hop in. I won't let you put a foot wrong. And with that, I wish you good luck. That's a very exciting moment. And if you have any questions or any problems, I'm here to help you. So just let me know. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you. Okay. Throughout this interview, each one of us will just kind of go around the board here, and we'll each ask you a question and let you answer. Okay. Okay, BG, do you want to go ahead and start with number one?
Sure. Good afternoon. Welcome. I'd like for you please to describe your communication style in the workplace and with the community. Would you foresee any adjustment in your communication style with the district of this size?
Thank you for the question. Communication style, I tend to not be, I guess, intimidated with communication with anybody. I just have had a lot of experience with what I have done in my life as far as dealing with people. I find that the reason why I tend to have success with my communication is that I tend to listen first. The reality of it is I have no issues being polite, listening, restating what somebody has shared with me to let them know that I've understood that, what they've had to offer, and I'm typically respectful of their point of view. Provide empathy, yet at the same time, I understand position. Let's say in this case, if I was a principal at your school, the position that the district has, that that I need to share in that point of view. I think the reality of it is everyone who is in any type of communication style really wants to get their point across, wants to be listened to, and wants to be respected. And I treat people the way I'd like to be treated. And whether or not they're a student, a staff member, a member of the community, any stakeholder has the right to be respected. And that's what I feel is important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Give us two examples, one with staff and one with community, of the approach you have taken when dealing with the people going to be affected by a decision that you had to make.
Okay. One was staff. I think one of the toughest situations to deal with that I've had in my experience as an associate principal is if a staff member, let's use a teacher, for example, has issues with, let's use an example of a teaching style that may not fit in with the policy of the district. It's always a tough situation. We're dealing with a professional of education that may have a point of view that they feel strongly for, but yet goes against the policy. I know as a representative of the district and obviously as a principal, it's up to me to help lead that individual back to district policy. That's difficult to do. With teachers, most want to be the best they can be. Of course, it's a touchy area when you're let's say you're using a point of view that might not be in line with theirs. Yet you have to get the point across that something has to be done. It's in a way it's a hard line. Yet at the same time, it doesn't have to be presented in a complete hard fashion. If the relationship is there, trust has been built between a teacher and an administrator, like in positions that I've been through. Sometimes, although it's difficult, the conversation has to be had. And in that case, the goal is always to try to come to an agreement that allows that teacher to maintain their level of respect, but yet at the same time, toe the district policy line. It's difficult because change is hard. And of course, even though it's a difficult conversation to have in a situation with a teacher, in the end, you hope that they understand that you're just trying to help them not only become better, but protect their own position within the school district. That's one example. Members of community is a little bit different. I've had a lot of conversations with members of the community, typically parents coming in with issues with their kids at school. Maybe it's an issue where a policy has been violated there, and yet they want to make sure their child has been treated fairly and consistently. Usually they're supercharged because it involves their kid, their student. And so because of that, again, it comes down to the same communication style. It's all, for me, it's tied to communication, because how can you come to a situation where the parent understands not only the district's point of view, but also understands the policy and why there's an issue with the behavior of their child. And at the same time, what your hope is as a principal is they walk away not only understanding, but agreeing with that point. And that's tough. A lot of times it means you've got to actually listen quite a bit. You have to give them the parent their opportunity to really share what their concerns are. And as an administrator, you have to be willing to listen to all of that. And at the same time, you have to be able to clearly state what the issue is, what potential solutions are, and how you can come to an agreement between the two parties that will allow you to reach what that district policy is. In most cases, a violation of a school policy is pretty black and white. The problem is in how it's interpreted by different individuals, whether it's that parent or whether it's other members of the community that are all supporting one side or the other. What I've found is, although difficult, again, how the situation is handled, the respect that's involved, typically comes out with everyone agreeing at the end, if it's done correctly. And I've been fortunate enough to actually, that's the goal that I have every time that I meet with a parent. And I know that it's going to be difficult every time I start, but yet I also understand that I've been a parent. I have 2 kids of my own, and I totally understand where they're coming from, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Yet at the same time, just like everyone in society, we all have rules that we need to follow, and that we agree to these rules. And as long as we do so, and we understand what they are ahead of time, and everyone has followed their prescribed pathway, then in the end, we can agree that hopefully the policy that we have and the consequences that are associated with that um, are fair and they're treated equally and they're consistent. And as long as I followed my path the correct way and the policy directive is correct, then typically parents I found, for the most part, tend to agree with that at the end, providing you've given them their opportunity to share their point of view.
What do you believe are the best ways for a district to monitor student achievement?
Well, any way they can gather data is the correct answer. I mean, there's a lot of different, well, in today's day and age, a lot of different platforms that can collect data. You know, I know schools will use um, platforms such as Infinite Campus. It would be a really good example. And I'm not sure. I think Libby School District, I believe, uses that. It's a way of capturing a lot of information through academic performance. I think decisions have to be backed up by performance and by data. I think it's important not just to shoot from the hip. When setting goals, it's nice to know if you're heading in the right direction. And one way to do that is to look at the data that you have. If you have platforms that you can input information, that you can gather it all over time, you can actually see improvement. And that's really the only way that you know if you're going to be successful is rather than a feel, maybe, is looking at the numbers and then deciding how they compare and whether or not they're headed in the right direction. Of course, there are other information points that you can grab from. I know the state uses some with some of the testing, whether it's MAPS or MAST or ACTs or SATs. There's a lot of different testing options that are available for school districts to use to compare how successful their students are over time. I believe, although sometimes results of testing doesn't show exactly what kids are learning, and I know teachers would share that opinion, we have to have something to really kind of anchor to really know how we're comparing from year to year. It's also difficult with changing these data platforms every 2 years because then it's hard to always get that history to help you out. But I definitely believe that monitoring student achievement through proper testing procedures, grading procedures from both teachers and the use of these testing options are a great way to know, or at least get an idea of what your students are actually learning. You're welcome.
Question 4. How would you communicate and gain buy-in from key constituents on the district's vision, goals, and strategies?
Well, consistency is probably the biggest key. District policy is pretty clear. I mean, it's published. Everyone can see it. I think the big thing is to be consistent in following district policy. Number one, it's pretty tough to get buy-in from staff members if you're not consistent as an administrator, number one. Number two is just to, as an administrator and leader, is just to, number one, be visible in the classrooms, be visible in the school. In other words, lead by example is the best example with district policy. Be consistent, build relationships, and share information. All of these are things that will gain relationships with shareholders, whether members of the community or staff members, or even students for that matter. I think for the most part that everyone wants to know if you're trying to sell an idea, that you feel the idea is going to be the right one. And in this case, district policy is just that. If there's an issue that an administrator has with district policy, they'd better figure it out prior to trying to sell it so that they can understand what the benefits of that policy are. And from my experience, most district policies are geared towards protecting the district and protecting the students and the staff members as well. And so the idea of protecting people is always a good thing when safety is number one in a school, both for students, for teachers, and really community members, I think, want that same thing.
Thank
You're welcome.
Bill, thanks for being here today. Hey, what would you say are your major strengths and weaknesses as a leader? And where do you believe you could improve?
Strengths, probably experience. And I think my leadership experience comes from a lot of different background experiences. I'm a little non-traditional in this sense. I did start out my education. Well, I started out in education to be a teacher, but I was hired away by several different other opportunities, and each one of those opportunities in their end taught me a lot about leadership. In the private sector, being involved with sales, in through management experience, also being involved as a purchasing agent, basically a buyer, taught me the importance of budgets. It taught me the importance of value of what you have to use, and maybe the decision-making process that helps you to decide which are most important. Coaching experience for over 35 years and working with kids in a situation where it's about setting goals and about creating plans that allow people to not only reach that, but have the individuals you're working with actually decide they want to reach it rather than you setting the goal and you doing it. So leading has been part of my background for a long time. Now, only recently, in the area of the school administration as a dean of students, my fourth year teaching, and then the last 3 years as an associate principal and athletic director, which both sides of it has certainly involved a lot of leadership experience in those positions. So there's no doubt in my area, one of my strengths is just my experience with leadership. Weaknesses, there's no doubt my number one weakness. And that is as an educational administrator, sometimes I struggle to remember what some of the top educational programs, which are described by letters. I was asked earlier, I have to bring up an example in a meeting I had with your superintendent back here. He asked me a real simple question about the how I worked with MTSS. I had no clue what MTSS. I really didn't. To me, it was 4 letters, and of course, I deal with a lot of letters. Okay, and in that, sometimes I remember it off the top of my head, and sometimes I struggle. And when I struggle, remembering what those letters mean, I kind of freeze like a deer in the headlights. And your superintendent was kind to me today in this question because he reworded it in a different way. And when he did, all of a sudden, the question made a lot of sense. And I was able to answer it, and I think hit everything he wanted out of that question. Yet at the same time, it was a little embarrassing for me to realize that I wasn't the ultimate professional that I really wanted to be, where you could just pull those answers off the top of your head. Now, if I would be asked any of those questions with letters in the form of, let's say, coaching, I probably have those at the top of my head because with years of experience, you get that. They just become automatic. My experience with being a principal in a school, I do have, yet my limitation is just that. I have 3 years truly of leadership experience, which I'm not going to lie, I still have a lot to learn. But what I have learned is that everyone has a lot to learn for a long time. So I know that I have limitations, yet at the same time, I know I have an unlimited amount of potential. And I certainly am not afraid to work on that potential. You're welcome.
Hi. Number 6, give us one example each of how you have handled a negative behavior in an employee and a student.
Okay. Let me start with the student one because I deal with that daily. So that one, let me just knock that one out. I deal with students that make choices that may not be the best quite a bit. And I would call that a negative behavior. I call them educational opportunities, right? There's a lot of ways that you can use that. Some kids, when they when they get into trouble as students, um, let's say an office referral, which is like an upper level violation, they're going to be sent to the office, and then I'm dealing with them. And it's a tricky situation because teachers, they want to be supported, so they don't want to see them coming back too soon, right? And sometimes they're sent out because they're a distraction for the rest of the class, which has an effect that a teacher can't effectively teach everybody if one kid's being disruptive. And so now I've got a student that I've got to not only cover district policy, which is sometimes a little bit vague when it comes to student discipline. Sometimes the discretion is up to the principal. And so I have to look at what is the best way that I can utilize this time with this one student to really solve an issue so that maybe we don't have this problem in other classes or especially that class over and over again. So really the choices then become um, more about the individual because each individual student is different. They don't all have disciplinary issues for the same reason. So it provides me the opportunity to start building a relationship with that student. It's not just a matter of handing down consequences, right? It's a matter of learning why there's a problem and then developing a solution. Fitting that student into that process is a big part of it, just like fitting a teacher is into the process of when it's the most, it makes the most sense sending a kid down to the office in the first place. There's always difficult solutions, but I look at it as each difficult solution is a potential great opportunity. Because if you can solve that solution, well, now you've got a bridge that's already built towards solving any problems you have with that individual in the future. Plus, it builds a level of trust where that individual is going to say, this person is at least fair. Okay. They at least listen to what I've had to say and they're treating me fairly. And in that part, they're going to gain at least some respect for authority. And then the other part of the difficult solution and or difficult example that we're talking about would be with a staff member. Now I have to go to that staff member and share that information and try to create some kind of a solution that then the staff member can use the information that I've gotten to try to build that bridge themselves. Because if the teacher can do that in the classroom, well, now they don't have to send the student outside the classroom. And then the student doesn't miss that seat time. And so both of those are difficult because teachers sometimes have problems with trust with administration until you can actually build that level of trust as well. And that's difficult because it takes time. It takes time and it takes opportunity. I think that's a difficult thing for most administrators is to spend the kind of time needed with all of the staff members individually, which means you're spending a lot of time out of your office and a lot of time in the school halls and in the school classrooms. And so that's difficult for most administrators because there's so much extra stuff to do that they're responsible to. And so I think in both instances, they kind of cover the same problem, but they kind of illustrate the difficulties that are involved. And the solutions are all tied to a lot of face time and a lot of time with both individuals, again, fitting them into the process. Okay.
Give us some idea of how you judge your own effectiveness as president.
a difficult question. I mean, we don't have data on this, I suppose. I mean, even if a leader was the best leader there was, there's always somebody that might be unhappy, right? So how you can't use unhappy people as a number, I suppose. I think a lot of it has to be I guess a lot of it has to be connected to satisfaction of those that you work with, whether they're students. Are the students satisfied with what you're doing? How do we know that without taking a poll? Well, are they coming to school? Do they like school? Do they feel that they belong? Well, I think if you're doing your job well, you don't have a lot of absenteeism because they want to be in school. That is tied to leadership, I would imagine. That's one way. Teachers, are they taking every personal day and sick day that they can because they don't want to be in school? That's another way of looking at it. If they don't want to be in school is any more than students want to be in school, you probably have some issues at leadership. I think, again, you have to build a culture that is enjoyable. If school becomes a little more enjoyable and you can still learn and you want to be there, then I think the culture shows that leadership is doing something positive. And so I think that's important. I think that would be the best way that I could judge my own effectiveness is, do I feel that people that are coming to school, whether they're teachers or students, really want to be there? If yes is the answer, then I'm probably being effective as long as I'm following school policy. You're welcome.
Back over here.
Oh, here we go. I better turn this in case I have trouble listening.
Number 8. What have you found to be the most effective plan in fostering and developing a positive working atmosphere?
Well, organization first, great communication so people know about it ahead of time. It's always difficult if you get something sprung on you from anybody. You know, everyone is, if you know about it ahead of time, you can plan and you can get your thoughts together. So those are important things. Positive working atmosphere. Again, keeping things, I guess, to the point, clear, concise, point them in the direction that solve your directive coming in. You know, don't spend a lot of time talking about things that aren't part of what are important. You know, at least that's going to be productive. Enjoyable is always part of it too. I mean, everything can have some enjoyment in it. If you can work that, boy, you're going to go a long ways towards having people buy into it. That's the other side to it. To have this be a great working atmosphere, everyone has to feel like they have a part in it. If everyone feels that they're involved with it and have a say in it, then they're going to at least feel that they're part of the system and that it's worthy of their time. So I think all of those things have potential to make that atmosphere more positive, for sure.
What would you do to build support, rapport, and trust quickly?
I would have as much interaction with individuals as I could. The more time you're involved with people, the more they seem to think you care, because that's exactly the truth. If you don't go in classrooms, if you don't spend time with students, if you aren't at the activities, that sends a message. Yet if you're there all the time, if you are always present, people know you care. And I think that leads to this feeling of trust. The rapport comes with just the communication. And support comes with consistency. Just, I mean, let's face it. I mean, you can support people even if they're not direct. You just have to be smart about how you do it. And in this case, I think all teachers deserve support, and so do students, and community members do too. I mean, everyone in their point of view deserves that. But the reality of it is, sometimes you can't give support just by bending the will. Sometimes you have to offer the opportunity for education so that everyone's on the same page. You're welcome.
What do you consider as your most significant accomplishment as an educator or administrator that may or may not be spelled out in your resume?
This is a little bit of a tough one here. I think of, I guess, my value as an administrator, significant accomplishment. It's really tough because I look at it as a student point of view, right? I look at it as my interaction with students is a huge accomplishment because I have the ability to reach kids. And I enjoy that. I enjoy my time working with kids, whether or not they're in my office for the wrong reason, or whether I'm supporting them in some activity they're doing. That is a big deal to me. It's always been a big deal to me, and it's always been one of my strengths. That's a big accomplishment. Yet at the same time, my ability to work with my fellow administrators has been a big deal too. It's unique, a little bit unique, maybe not completely unique because other administrators have skills too. But in working with really difficult situations, I find that I have a unique ability to calm the situation is probably the best way to put it. It might be my communication style. It might be my timing. It might be that I'm just a good partner to work with. I'm not sure the reason why. I just know that when I have a meeting with a parent and another administrator, I look forward to it because I look at it as an opportunity that when we leave, it's going to be in a way better position than when we got there. And I don't consider it a challenge that I go in with that thought that that's going to be the goal. I just have faith that it's going to happen, and it typically happens. So I'm always happy that I can have that effect. So I consider that something I'm proud of.
Question 11. Why do you think this could be the right opportunity for you at this point in your career? And why do you think you might be the right leader for us now?
Great question. Well, the right opportunity for me. Yes, it would be a great opportunity for me. That's why I applied. I share a little story about this. I brought up to my son, who's 28 years old, and he's finishing his master's at the University of Montana. And he asked me what I was planning on doing after this year. I've got some changes in my life that are happening. And I said that I was applying for a new job. And he said, well, where are you thinking of applying? Well, this was a good month or two ago. I love where I'm working now, and I love the people I work with, and the students are fantastic. But I need this new opportunity. And I said, I would like to apply to a place like Libby. Well, you guys hadn't had a job open at that time. It was, I grew up in the Flathead, and the Flathead has changed a lot. Libby has not changed a lot. Okay. And I visited Libby a lot when I was a kid, right? I did a lot of things around here, and I had great memories of it to a point that I use this community as an example. And I'll be danged if 3 weeks later it didn't come up on NTSBA. So in my mind, that was some kind of a sign. Now, just because it comes up and just because I fill out an application doesn't mean I'm going to be the one selected. Okay. But to me, the community offers what I'm looking for. It's not overly large. It is large enough. It has this unbelievable form of nature that surrounds the entire community. I mean, even today, when I was here, you can't help but look in any direction and just be awed by the opportunity that you guys have in your community that most people don't. I right now am in Baker. I grew up in the Flathead Valley. So I'm used to having trees and mountains and everything that you have here. I'm used to being in a school environment that has a bunch of great kids. My memory of your guys' community is always great when it comes to kids. I've coached at Flathead, I've coached at Whitefish, and when we had Libby students and athletes there, they were always the nicest kids. When I went to the state cross country meet this year, just as a spectator, one of the former Libby athletes came up to me and remembered who I was. And of course, was outgoing and friendly, and I remembered who he was. And that is why it's a great opportunity for me, because I want to be a principal at a school that I can do some great things for that have great kids. And Libby fits that. The community is outstanding. I like that. So that part for me is huge. That's why it's a great opportunity for me. Why it's a great opportunity for you, I think I can do everything that you want from your principal position, your leadership position. I think I have the ability to work with the staff, the community, and the students to achieve the goals that the district set. And if I can help to point out new ideas, then I'm more than willing to do that. But I don't feel I have to make all the changes. I can do what's needed, whether it's create new things or whether it's just work with the ideas that are already set. Because what I found is most school districts have a great plan that's already in motion. And it takes time for a new person coming in to be able to really understand whether or not something needs to be changed or not. So I'm willing to take some time to learn that. But at the same time, if we do find something that has to be changed, I'm not afraid to take it through the channels, right? I know how the system works, right? To see if we need to have some changes. And I like working with parents, I like working with students, and I like working with the community. So I have the ability to do all of that. So hopefully that's what you're looking for with this position. And maybe I'm the one that you want.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Chris, man. I just wanted to see if Andrew was paying. He didn't stop. Well, should.
There's a reason they sat Tony closely.
How would you approach your first 100 days on the job? How would you generate buy-in from the staff, parents, and the community?
Well, I covered most of it already, but I'll rehash it. The first thing I do is just be visible as I can be everywhere. If a person can be everywhere at once, that would be my goal. I want people to think that I really want to be there, that I really want to be part of their day. I can't do that from inside an office, right? I have to be out in those classrooms, in the hallways. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the first 100 days. It's getting to know people and building relationships. That's really what those first 100 days are all about. And I would say learning the system, but I should learn the system the 100 days before that, because, the person that you're going to hire, hopefully you're going to hire relatively quickly. And at that point in time, it's a matter of starting the preparation already. So I don't really consider that the first 100 days because that's not part of the salary, right? It all starts with the first day of school. And that first 100 days of school is really going to set the tone for probably not just the rest of the school year, but the rest of the tenure of if it were me in that position, my career at your school. Because people are gonna find out who I am. And they're either gonna say they like it or they don't like it, or I'm effective or I'm not effective. So really, it's all about setting goals, developing plans to reach those goals, and then putting those plans into action. And then creating some data so that you can prove that you made the right choices. And if you didn't make the right choice, well, then it's time to look at a better solution and then not be too prideful to admit that maybe the first step wasn't the right one. But I don't think you can go wrong by building relationships and being in the school.
Thank you. Okay, that was our final question. So, the board appreciates your responses, and we would like to thank you for your time and effort in this process. Please provide any additional confidential information you would like us to consider to our search consultant by email within the next hour. That'd be Andrew. And then do you have any questions for us?
Well, you know, I came with questions, and I had the opportunity earlier today to spend some time with the current building principal, Mr. Beagle, who was very helpful with answering those questions. And then I had other questions, and then I spent some time with Mr. Goodman, who was very nice to answer some of those questions. As far as the questions for the school board, if I asked a question, I'm not sure who would have to answer. There's a lot of opinions there too. You guys are all members of the community, and you are all elected to basically share those points of view. I suppose if I were to ask one question, what would you like to see? What vision would you like to see out of your building principal? From I guess for a person that isn't from this community right now.
I got an answer for that one. I think a lot of what you said, you know, with being visible, I think, you know, in the community. I'm from here. I moved away for a while, came back, and that was one of the first things I wanted to do is let people know I was back in this community. And I think it's important to be a member of this community because, you know, we have a lot of you know, transplants for lack of a better word that move here. And one of the things you hear from the locals or the people that have been here a long time is, oh yeah, people are moving here, but they don't really engage in the community. They're not out there helping. You know, if you want to be, you know, a Libyan or probably politically incorrect. Anyways, you know, that's important to be in the community, like you said, going to sporting events or you know going to the plays that happen here in the theater. You know, not just the athletic part of it, but you know every part of it. I think that's huge and it's going to go a long way for whoever is hired for this position in the community to be a member of the community. And you can do that fast. Yeah, some of us moving back had the, you know, oh yeah, you're from here, you graduated from here.
Yeah.
But there's guys that you would swear have lived here their entire lives, and you find out they've only lived here for, you know, 10, 15 years, which,
Yeah.
you know, seems like a long time, but in the realm of this community where, you know, we have such a tradition with some of our things like logging and different things like that, it's not really that long. But you know, you would swear they've been here since the beginning of time. So
Yes, commitment to the community.
commitment to the community, yeah.
Hallelujah.
Adding on to Walt's comment, I think we are some of our most successful principals, and I've born and raised and been here for over 60 years. Our principals and staff who've been here and their families have went through our system. I
Yes.
think back on principals whose all of their children went here as well, and they have so much stock in the school system because you know they stayed here to make sure that their kids had the best place to learn from. And so I agree with you that
Mhm.
it's important to have personal stock and investment into the programs you're leading.
Yeah, I get that. I also think that consistency, what you mentioned about people being in the job a long time is an important thing too. And it's getting to be more difficult. It seems like, you know, that things change a little bit over time with commitment. So yeah, I totally get it.
I also think he is very unique and we really want somebody who wants to be here. I think we've had a number of people in the past several years who have said they wanted to be here and then ended up being here a year or two and then
Yeah.
sped off because they did not understand. So I think it is important that you're from the area and you understand what you're getting into, you understand where we're at.
Yeah.
Location and isolation and winters and everything that. I think that's it.
Have all good points, thank you.
Yes, well, again, the eyes open is not a bad way to start, right? Yeah, I totally get it. And then that commitment comes back, right? I'm getting the point here. Just one more question. And again, whoever wants to answer this, they can. I'm kind of curious, what do you think currently right now may be the best or one of the best things about your school?
The teachers. I think we have some excellent teachers. I think we have a very good administrator leading the helm. I think we have a board that works together for the betterment of all children and the community listening. That doesn't mean we always agree because that just doesn't happen,
Yes.
but we can agree to disagree. I am one of those transplants 50 years ago, so I've been here a little while, and watching the community change somewhat. The school has always been a steady presence, no matter what its size. Both of my children got wonderful educations here. Thank goodness my son did. You know, I feel like with that, I feel like without a good school system, you don't have a community. So I think we're really, really lucky here with what we have.
I'd second BG's thing.
Yeah.
Going from first grade all the way through, I can't remember a time when there was bad teachers, or for that matter, administrators. Libby is always, and we've performed, I look at the students who have left here and the success. We have brain surgeons and we have, folks who have been in the military. I look back and think of all those kids, and then we have some we got a guy that's playing pro golf right now on the tour that came from Libya. I mean, we've had some outstanding students, and teachers.
And I didn't even have you in first grade.
You weren't here yet. Yeah, we've always, Libby has always somehow always had great teachers. They always have.
Well, I think it's important to celebrate your successes. And those comments, they illustrate that. I know walking through your school building today, your middle school, high school, and outside the science classrooms, there are pictures of former students that graduated and went on to some great things with their education and their careers. And they're a great opportunity that I'm happy to see up on the wall, celebrating successes. And I think that's important, especially in school, especially with the way students are in certain situations. I think we have to do more than provide that great opportunity. We have to celebrate the successes once they've earned them, and whether they're great teachers, great members of the community, or in this case, great former students. I think it's important that we acknowledge that as well. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to sit in front of you and answer all these questions. And I know you guys will have a tough decision to make, but probably 3 great candidates. And I just hope I'm in the mix. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all your driving time and willingness to come meet with us in person. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. So that is our only candidate today. So this time we adjourn, correct? Okay. So just a motion to adjourn, please.
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion by BG and a second by Ellen to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
I.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Good.
Okay.
That's awesome. That would take a load off your back.
I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to start by taking roll from my right.
Cody Capster.
Walter Snyder.
Tony Remo.
Andrew Vigelin with the Montana School Boards Association.
Elida Snow.
Ellen Johnson.
BG Zimmerman.
Okay, at this time, I invite any member of the audience to make a public comment on any non-agenda item. Okay, at this time, I'd like to reintroduce Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We went through the statute in question yesterday. You all remember it. I'm here in case you have any questions. Same drill as yesterday. I'll be listening closely to your interview. Best of luck and good fortune.
Okay, Heidi, at this time, we're just gonna go around and each ask you questions as we go. So, Cody, let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi. Describe your communication style in the workplace and with the community. And would you foresee any adjustments in your communication style with a district of this size?
So I believe in transparency, and I believe that there's a lot of stakeholders involved that need to know what is going on. So my best favorite form of communication is being very direct on what is going on through email or to meet face to face. So I like the written form of communication. That way there's documentation of what has been said and what is transpired back and forth between people as conversation, and then you just have written tracks of what has been going on. So I appreciate a good phone call, and I don't mind talking to people directly. I have no problem with that, but I think now just having that paper trail is a good way to have documentation of communication. I don't foresee any adjustments in my communication style. It's been very effective for me and those people that I work with. So I think even in a larger district, it would work just as well as it has in smaller districts.
Hi. Give us two examples, one with staff, one with the community, of the approach you have taken when dealing with people going to be affected by a decision you have made.
So a staff decision, there's many decisions every day as an administrator that affect people that you're involved with. I think just reinforcing policy at the district level has been one approach that has affected directly some of the people that I work with. And that just goes with, like for instance, we started a 10-minute rule. So 10 minutes before the bell rings, 10 minutes after the bell rings, students are supposed to stay in their classrooms. Teachers need to have bell-to-bell instruction. So that is a little bit something new that the school hadn't been a part of in previous years before I was there. So there was a little bit of hesitation. There's a lot of hesitation in small schools where this is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it. This is what works for us. So sometimes, it's hard to make changes. But that's one example with the staff that is of the approach you have taken. So the way I broached the subject was to have it at a staff meeting and just explain the rationale of why this approach works and why this policy should be in place. And I think it went over pretty well. The community, I tried screen-free day like a month and a half ago. So I put flyers in the community and I sent it in my newsletter that we were going to try screen-free Monday where Chromebooks were not going to be used. I figured it would, I believe that teachers, when they're standing up talking to their students, it's more effective than having kids on computers all day. So there was a little bit of resistance from that, but after the event, our local newspaper wrote about it, and it was well received in the community. There was a lot of people who said, we need more screen-free days. Kids are on their computers way too often. And so I think just having that written down in the newsletter, the monthly newsletter that I send out, and then posting it in town at the library and feed store that it was well received. And so the feedback after the event, at first I was a little worried about it, but the feedback after was very positive. That was my approach to that.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. No matter
Thanks
which
for having
direction we go, I get the short questions. I like that.
They don't give you the big words either.
No, that's easy. What do you believe are the best ways for a district to monitor student achievement?
I think student achievement comes in multiple ways. You have your behaviors, you have your academics, you have, the level of engagement with students, but data is the best way to track achievement just because then you have documentation of where your students are and where they need to go. So, student achievement is one of those things that happen in a multiple of varieties. So, some students achieve better in one genre versus another form, and so it kind of depends on the student. But if you have documentation and you can look at the data and you use the data to decide where to go next, then it's very valid and you have what you need. I mean, it's very subjective too when you just talk with people, so having data is important.
Okay, question 4. How would you communicate and gain buy-in from key constituents on the district's vision, goals, and strategy?
Well, I believe in open communication. I believe that it is important to be transparent, talk to the community. Schools have multiple stakeholders. And so I think it's important that you consider all people involved. And I did read through your district goals and visions, and I like the idea of your core values. You said that one of your goals is to create optimism and hope for every student, which I really think is important. So I think just being a presence at meetings and being part of community events, whether it's sports or academics or the robotics class, whatever it is that has community involvement, I believe, if you're out there and you're willing to talk to people and let them come into your office if they have concerns, that open communication piece is very important. So the district's vision, goals, and strategies are something to be revisited often. Just mention it here and there, to keep the focus so people know that you are looking at that in your decision making.
I'm taking notes. Okay, question number 5. What would you say are your major strengths and weaknesses as a leader? And where do you believe you could improve?
I believe that one of my major strengths is my ability to listen. Sometimes I'm kind of quiet at meetings because I'm taking in the information. So I think that could also be a weakness in a way because some people think I might be indecisive, but I'm actually trying to figure out the best plan. I take in information from multiple sources and I have to think about it. I ponder these thoughts often. And so depending on what it is. So I do listen, and sometimes it might take me a minute to respond, but I think that's probably a good strength because sometimes people just need to be heard. So if you're willing to listen to them and actively listen, not just, nod your head and say yes, but if you actually take in what they say, and then I think that's an important part of communication. Weaknesses might be it might be construed the same as active listening, but I think more of a weakness would just be, I don't know, this is a hard question. Don't want to admit any weaknesses, but I do have some, As a leader, perhaps it would be somebody, I'm gonna have to think about that. I'll have to think about that one for a minute. Where do you believe you could improve? I believe there's improvement in all aspects. I believe, we as a teacher evaluator, when I have those Riker scales and I have to give numbers to people, that's very difficult for me. So I don't like assigning somebody as proficient or improving or advanced because it depends on that moment too. And so I think I could improve maybe in giving, I don't, sorry, I just can't think of that right now. I think a narrative approach of what is going on is more valid. So for me, this year, I've kind of struggled with the whole Charlotte Danielson, although I was a Charlotte Danielson trainer for our evaluation process. So I believe in the validity of it. I think it's very important. I just don't like the Riker scale of where somebody falls in their evaluation piece. So that could be something I need to improve upon. And I'm not sure what Libby School District uses for a teacher evaluation model. But Charlotte Danielson is some wonderful components, and I'm a strong believer in engagement and the strategies used, but I just don't like the number assigned.
I'm also writing. Okay, hi. Give us one example, each of how you have handled a negative behavior in an employee and a student.
Just recently, we were interviewing for an ops position, and it was sort of one of those times where we didn't announce it to the whole public because the applicant really didn't want the whole public to know because of a job she held in the public and wasn't quite ready to tell her employer that she was thinking of leaving, and it's a tiny, tiny town. So I had a teacher tell her son that, hey, I heard your mom's applying for this job, and they hadn't even told the son yet. So I had to speak to the teacher and say, some of the things that happen in the business office are confidential, and it is best to not announce it to your classroom and your students. And so he was remorseful about it and wrote a long apology letter, but it was a negative thing that happened. So I'm not sure what will transpire now because this just happened recently, but a student negative behavior. This is I kind of deal with negative behaviors often as the high school principal. One that I can think of recently was these students were drawing profanity on the sides of people's vehicles in the parking lot. They thought it was funny, but when you draw on muddy vehicles, it leaves marks. And so I had to call in several students, and they all talked. They knew what was happening. And what did you draw? They told me. Why'd you draw it? They told me. So just the little everyday things, but I don't try to cover it up with students. I tell them that I want them to tell me what they did. They know that I know, but I want it to come from them directly and say, I'm sorry, Dr. Pettinger, I drew a, what on the side of a car. They're pretty forthcoming once they're in my office, but sometimes they try to hide it, but usually they'll come and tell me the truth. I want to hear it from them first.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
So hang on a second, go. Okay. Give us some idea of how you judge your own effectiveness as a principal.
I think I'm a pretty effective principal. Sometimes I'll go to work and I'll have a list of things that I need to do, and I won't get to a single one because other things come up. But I've learned to prioritize what really needs to come first. And sometimes I'll answer emails on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday, and I don't mind doing that just because of the position that I'm in. Sometimes that's the best time to do it. So I don't mind working odd hours just so I can be effective. And I don't like my desk messy. I have to have my stuff organized. I have to have my list. I've started using more sticky notes, so I have, several sticky notes all over the place. And then when I finish my task and I wad it up and throw it away, it's very therapeutic for me to say I finished that. So I believe that I am an effective administrator because I treat everybody fairly. I follow up on every single thing that comes through my office. I believe in, of course, FERPA rights, and I make sure all the students are protected to the best of my ability. I communicate with the parents, and I really enjoy my job. So when I first finished my PhD, I wanted to go into higher education. That was my plan. I resigned from my job after teaching for 20 years. And so I was going to try something new. But then I went to, and I worked at the school for the deaf and blind as an instructional coach. And I loved it. But I didn't have as much communication with the students as I missed that. So as then I decided one day, I said, I'm just going to go into administration. And I never thought I would go into administration as a teacher, but I really enjoy it. And so now I have the best of both worlds. I work with the adults and I work with the kids, and I like the perfect fit for me right now. So I do my best.
Hi again. What have you found to be the most effective plan in fostering and developing a positive working atmosphere?
This goes back to open communication. Um, I we have a lot of long time employees who are very set in their ways, and they don't enjoy change that much. So I have been trying to take in their information, listen to what they have to say, and give suggestions. I didn't barge in and just try to change everything all at once. So I think just being willing to accept what has been going on and listening to how things are done, and then kind of, slowly implement new ideas and new plans has been effective. There's been a lot of I don't want to say problems, but there's been some miscommunication with our staff this past 2 years. And so I've kind of been put in an awkward position between, you know, the higher up and then the teachers. And so here I am trying to make everybody get along and keep the school running effectively. But I think just having a culture where it is based on positivity and reward is better than being punitive and negative. So I try to support the teachers and their endeavors with the students first. And if I bring them back and focus what's best for the students. It's not about the person, it's about the program, what can we do best to support the students. And so I think keeping that mantra and keeping that going with the teachers has been a positive experience.
What do you do to build support, rapport, and trust quickly?
I would get to know the teachers. I would visit classrooms. I enjoy going to classrooms. I love to see the students learn, and I love to see the students engaged in activities. And I would approach it as an instructional coach, more of a positive, how can I support you in what you're doing? Not as I want you to do it this way. That I don't think that's effective. I think all teachers have, their strengths. And so I believe that if I could support them in what they're doing and just be supportive of the students also is important. I know most teachers leave the profession because they feel like they do not have administrative support. So it is very important for me to let the teachers know that I support them in what they're doing, and I want to help them and make their jobs easier. It's not easy when you're in a classroom, you see 100 faces a day and you're trying to get your point across and have them learn something. It's not always easy. So I want to approach them, and I feel that if I do it that way, then that would build the support and the rapport. I listen to what they have to say. And just the trust part is just that open communication and that transparency.
Thank you.
And reliability is another thing. Yeah.
Okay, question 10. What do you consider as your most significant accomplishment as an educator, administrator that may or may not be spelled out in your resume?
As an educator, I think my most significant accomplishment would just be the career that I have had. I've taught everything from high school language arts, dual credit classes to kindergarten. And it's not being hyperbolic when I say I've taught everything in between. I have. I've taught all the grades. I've taught in multi-grade classrooms. I've taught single subjects. I've done such a variety of different classrooms and students and levels that I think that is quite an accomplishment. So it's been a fun career as a teacher, but now as an administrator, I love the working with the adults at the same time. So I think my most significant accomplishment was this year we had a gal from the community. We lost our music teacher, so we had a gal from the community who had never taught before come in for band. She did band, junior high band, high school band, and choir, and she'd never written a lesson plan. She never had any experience in classroom management. She's a botanist, but she was amazing. So I think just me supporting her, and I played the clarinet, but I don't know how to teach band. But it was successful half of the year. And so I think that is something that I will always think of as a success.
Thank you.
Number 11. Why do you think this could be the right opportunity for you at this point in your career? And why do you think you might be the right leader for us now?
Well, I think this is the right opportunity for me because it is a larger school than Plains. And I have worked in larger schools before, but I like the just bigger setting, more teachers, more students, more opportunities. I think this would be a step up in my career. I think we're still going to play Plains, so I'll still be able to see some of the people that I've worked with in before. And I think that I would be the right leader for you now just because of my experience, because where I have been, I bring in a lot of outside resources, not just from Montana, but from Oregon, and I taught in Alaska. So I have multiple experiences from different schools. And I think that's important just to be able to show and explain to other people, like this is also a method that will work. This is what I have seen work in the past. Or the opposite, no, this is not going to work well. But just having that experience from a variety of places and opportunities, I think would make me the right leader for you. My willingness to learn. I love learning new things. I've always considered myself to be a lifelong leader, so I am willing to learn about Libby and the community, and I'm excited about Kootenai River, and there's a lot of opportunity here that Western Montana has. So
This is it, number 12. How would you approach your first 100 days on the job? And how would you generate buy-in from staff, parents, and community members?
So the first 100 days are a very important first impression kind of days. So you want to come off and you want to be accessible. You want people to feel like they can reach out to you. You want to be supportive, but you also don't want to be the bulldog that goes in and changes everything at once. So you want to learn from the community. There's valid and tradition. You want to hear what's been going on. You want to meet the students. You want to meet the families. You want to read the school board policies. I read through your student handbook, and I love the way it's structured and it's very clear. That oftentimes you see gray area as well. You don't know, but you have a disclaimer in the front of your handbook that says it's hard to predict every single incident, so administration has the right to. And I loved that part about it. I might just steal that for other uses, but I think just being around and being transparent and letting people know that they can come to you if you have questions. I don't believe in, I usually leave my office door open unless I have families in there. so people can stop by and see me and talk to me. And of course, email is the best way. So the first 100 days would just be spent getting to know Libby, getting to know the teachers, getting to know the students, going to some volleyball and football games, being present at the board meetings, and getting to know the community outside of the school as well as inside. And the buy-in just comes from being present and being willing to communicate. I believe that's important. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for those. At this time, the board appreciates your responses, and we would like to thank you for your time and effort in this process. Please provide any additional confidential information you would like us to consider to our search consultant by email within the next hour. That'd be Andrew. And then do you have any questions for us?
I do have a couple questions. I was curious about your class sizes in high school algebra. How many approximately students do you have in a high school algebra class?
Well, Ron, you'd
And,
probably be best.
There's, the numbers are not very high. I would think mid-20s would be the highest numbers you're gonna see.
15 to 20 max. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was curious about that. And then I was wondering about your school safety plan. Do students and staff feel safe here in the school?
They do. That has been a pretty big topic over the last couple of years. We've taken surveys over the last couple of years, and there was some concerns in the beginning, and we've been working really hard at fixing those and changing things and making our staff and community feel safe.
On the building, the ground, we're looking at, possibly purchasing new doors, we have to badge in, make it where just no, a member of the community can't just walk in without, presenting themselves to the front desk and getting the, a badge saying that they're okay to, go to wherever they're going.
Yeah, we just started that this year, having that 2 double door lock system where they come in the front doors. The only problem is the back door is always left open because that's where the shop is. So somebody wanted to, they have to.
That problem. Big problem.
And we,
We're working on a solution.
yeah, it's not an easy fix. We built, well, there was a fence around the playground, but then we put locking gates for during the school day. And of course, the community is very unhappy about having locked gates because they've never had it before, but they're coming around. We just keep reiterating the importance of school safety and how we don't want people just to come in off the streets. We want to make sure that our students feel safe while they're in the building, because if they don't feel safe, then they're not gonna learn. I mean, okay. Does your staff generally feel supported by the administration?
They do, for the most part. There's always a grumble here and there.
On both sides.
They feel supported by their administrators and by the board. We've had some disagreements as as things go on, but we've worked them out. Hopefully to everybody's satisfaction. And if not, we'll keep working on it.
I think that's a goal for too, is to be, is to be more present in the schools. I know a lot of us try to get over there as much as we can, and so that way start to build that relationship so the teachers feel more comfortable speaking with us, and that way we could hear what's going on or see for ourselves what's going on. So if there are any issues that we could handle it. So we are trying to be a lot more proactive with anything like that. So.
I saw that, well, I know that Libby is part of the co-op, special ed co-op. And I was just wondering, I saw that you were looking for an SLP. So I was wondering how that would work if you're a member of a co-op.
I'm not sure. Why do you want that one? Okay.
Yeah, you can go back and forth with the co-op. And so we've worked with Taylor Solomon for years and picking up, trying to get up another SLP right now is a difficult situation.
I think there's a lot more students who need speech and communication than ever before, especially because everybody's on their tablets or their phones and they don't know how to communicate. So I think that's I was also wondering about your homeschool policy. You have a high percentage of students in the area who are homeschooled.
We are finding that more kids these days are trying to go there. I would not say we have a high percentage, but we are noticing an um, increasing numbers especially this year as the year goes on. So we are in the middle of kind of trying to problem solve those things to try to keep our kiddos in school. So go ahead.
Well, I think we have right now at the charter school, right above you. And we picked up 16 kids that were not in public school this year. So I think that was very good for both the school and for the students.
That's great. K-12,
No, it's not high school.
that was one of my questions about the administrator's role with the charter school. We started working with Harmony, the program based out of Utah. More and more school districts seem to be joining Harmony, and it's an online homeschool program that offer different tracks. So you could have a track 1 model where students are solely at home. You could have a track 2 model where it's a hybrid. Sometimes the students are in class and then sometimes they're at home, or a combination of both. And then you have the diploma seeking track. But homeschool is a problem, I think, a lot of times, because a lot of parents just only want the electives. So it's like it's really hard to schedule a student, especially if you have limited numbers in your elective classes. So I don't know an easy solution either.
Lots of hours of discussion over that.
Yes, yes. Your PIR structure, is it a 7 days of PIR each school year?
Yes, that is what we schedule is 7 days. Typically it's broke down into, is it 3 in the beginning and then monthly,
Half days.
half days once a month.
We really like it. We're part of the literacy grant. So the professional development is strong and robust, and we needed that time.
That's the Montana Literacy Grant? Do you still work with side-by-side consulting?
No, we got rid of it. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, yeah, we work with various full and side-by-side. Wonderful.
Yes. When I was working at the School for the Deaf and Blind, we worked with Stephanie Lester.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she used to talk about Libby. And your professional development kind of goes hand in hand with that, I'm assuming. All right. I think that was. I will come up with 100 more questions later today.
Perfect.
But
Well, thank you for joining us. And I believe, have you spoken to Scott about going over or
yes,
spoken to somebody about going over and touring the school?
yes.
Okay.
That's it. After I'm finished here, I can go have tours. So
Perfect.
Yeah, that's what you do. Good time to say.
So this is Ron, our superintendent, Ron Goodman. So
I'll just take just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's no lie. No.
Did 5 minutes on ours.
okay, so we can just
Okay. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I look forward to the future. Great.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So a little bit like last time, we're just gonna kind of go around and each ask the questions as we go through here. And so this time we'll go ahead and start with Miss BG.
Well, hello again. First question. Describe your communication style in the workplace and with the community. Would you foresee any adjustments in your communication style with a district of our size?
When I hire people, I like to answer a question around a compass protocol. It talks about like kind of personalities in the workplace. I very much align with a West, which is a questioner. One of my communication styles is asking questions. I really like to kind of understand the background of why people are approaching things the way they are, what experiences might they have, or why are they thinking things the way they do. With staff, I am absolutely a firm believer that as much as possible, transparency is critical. There are absolutely times where timing with staff is really important, right? Like not everything can be addressed right up front. Here's what everything is, and obviously confidentiality around discipline issues, but it is the building of teachers, right? It is our building. It is the building of classified staff. And I don't think that changes depending on size, right? The district I currently work in is 12,400 kids. My office is, I tell my staff that I oversee, if the door is open, come in. If the door is closed, knock, and I'll let you know if there's something going on where you can't come in. But even, this week, I had people working in my office when I wasn't in there, because that's a space that they can use, right? I'm there to support them. I have had, people call me late in the evening. I've had emails come in. That doesn't change. People need to know you're there to support them. I want to tell people the truth and be transparent with that as much as possible. So I don't know that changes, but I would add to communication style, kindness matters. I think I'm listening to an audiobook. I was telling Ron earlier, I call myself that I'm not a reader, but I've been reading a lot. So I don't know if that's actually true, but I'm listening to an audiobook. It's called Lincoln on Leadership. So it's lessons of leadership from Abe Lincoln. And one of the things that he talks about, there's a couple quotes from Abe Lincoln. And he says, a kind word basically will go a long way, right? And that matters, right? From students to staff to parents, and also to the community.
All right, give us 2 examples, one with staff and one with community, of the approach you have taken when dealing with people going to be affected by a decision you had to make.
Last year, I was in the same seat, middle of summer, and you all know that I turned that down. And it was a timing thing. Was one of the things I just didn't feel at peace with the timing. What's really interesting about that is when I went back to my job in Nampa, it was not 2 weeks later that the federal government froze all federal funds, and I had over 20 staff without a job overnight. And so what we did initially was I brought in our people one by one and said, we don't have money. That was myself included. I didn't have money. My job was funded out of that same stuff. And so we tried to find roles within the system for people. I would echo back to that transparency. People need to know it's their livelihood. And for many of our staff, they'd worked in our district for 7, some of them over a decade of years. But that's one with staff. I would say with the community, I had a hard situation over the last couple of weeks with a mom, a single mom of 8, was experiencing some housing transition and homelessness, just in a really tough spot. And she was requesting her daughter go to a specific school. And, again, kind of difference of size. Nampa's got 11 comprehensive elementary schools. And so she was asking to go to one school, which was not her boundary school. And under some additional supports we were providing was not one of the options that she was provided. She was not happy with me. And it was absolutely, I understood her point. I understood where she was coming from. The school she wanted to get her student into had some supports, but it wasn't one of the options. And what we did was I sat down with mom. Like we set up a meeting, and it was me and one of our social workers, mom and her kids, and we tried to walk her through that. She didn't like the answer. And I followed that up with a phone call the next day. We followed it up with email. And she ended up getting enrolled into one of our other schools, which has very similar supports to the school she was looking at. And I haven't heard from mom yet, but I will follow up with her and follow up with the principal to make sure that that student is doing well. But I think that approach is just one of kindness, one of honesty, one of making sure that we're doing the right thing. Uh, it matters, right? Like, are we on the front lines of battle? No, but education matters. I heard a statistic a couple of weeks ago that 90% of youth in the United States will attend a public school. One of the things that I was talking to Ron about earlier is I would love, as I come in, I want to make sure if you guys select me that Libby Mid High is offering a competitive advantage for our graduates. And the way we raise our students in school, the skills we teach them matters for when they leave, right? And I do think long term, how we treat people matters also for hire. It matters for the trust of the community. Parents don't have to send their kids to school. They could choose to go to a homeschool model if they want. But I really believe when we have that trust built and we've proven that over time that we're going to deliver on what we say we're going to do, if you build it, they will come, right? Like I want to come in and if selected, build that along with the great things already happening, continue to build that so that we have and prove a competitive advantage for kids at the mid-high.
Okay, question 3. What do you believe are the best ways for a district to monitor student achievement?
When I was working as a director of curriculum and instruction, we used to use a triangle and kind of break it out in 3 tiers and look at different levels of assessment. Teachers are assessing student achievement every single day. Every single day. You walk through a classroom, you're working on math, that teacher knows if that kid is learning and growing in that or not. That's the classroom level decisions. As a district, the district as a system doesn't live at that classroom level assessment, right? They live at a higher level where the learning assessments are typically more interim in nature. Right? It's every few months we're looking at that data. There's a phenomenal book by a former superintendent out of White River School District in Washington. It's called PLC's District Wide. One of the things that they talk about, she talks about in that book, is making sure that from the board level to the classroom, learning data is being shared. If I were picked, it's one of the things that I would want to work toward is how often is the schools coming back to the board and say, look, our 7th graders are working on these things, they're doing phenomenal in these areas, and vice versa. Maybe, hey, this area we're still working on, we're still growing in this learning part of the curriculum. But I think that as a system, we need to be aligned, right? I know that there are some assessments that are happening through Mass that Scott was telling me are the data they're getting back is not great. And what I mean by that is it's not usable for teachers in the way that they need it to be. It's not as specific as they need it to be. It's not students aren't achieving, it's that the data they're getting is not usable in instruction. And so as a system, we need to be looking at what do kids need to learn and know and be able to do, and then look at that kid by kid and skill by skill. And if kids aren't achieving, we need to look at why. And then provide those interventions and those supports for those kids so that they can get to success. I believe, and I told Ron this, and I believe it now. I was at a seminar a few years ago. One of the speakers was talking a lot about that same thing, intervention and graduation rates. And he goes, the school had a graduation rate of 99%. Is that good enough? Typically, that'd be phenomenal. You get 99% of kids graduating, that's phenomenal, except for if you're the parent of that one kid. And I know as a parent, if I was in a school system and my 12-year-old was that kid that was struggling, that's hard. I want success rate for every single kid. And I do believe that every single kid has that potential to get to graduation, to be able to build that life of hope and opportunity once they leave the school system.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being here.
Well,
How would you communicate and gain buy-in from key constituents on the district's vision, goals, and strategies?
I would first want to hear a really clear from whether that's from Ron or the board, or the unified kind of administrative group in the district, what are those vision goals and strategies? And then from there, we have to tell people and continue to tell people the great things that are happening and how are we moving towards it. Part of that is going to where people are. Are we talking about vision, goals, and strategies at the basketball game? Is there a table set up where parents can see, hey, we're working towards 5% improvement in math and ELA. Here's something you can do with your kid at home. That's where families are. Families may not show up if we go, hey, come to this math night. They might not be there. And then the next day you got 500 people at the basketball game. Why not bring it there? But I think it is just a continued conversation. There are absolutely people in the community that want to support schools, right? You all are evidence of that. But there are businesses in the community and the larger community that want to see Libby succeed. And together, I really think together we can. A united Libby is a Libby that's going to move forward.
Hi. What would you say are your major strengths and weaknesses as a leader? Where do you believe you could improve?
I wrote an answer for this question. I figured it was coming. I actually did write some answers out. One of my strengths, I think, is walking into this position. I do have a variety of experiences coming in. One of my first jobs, well, I worked as a work study when I was in college at one of the most impoverished schools in Spokane, which is Rogers High School. Shortly thereafter, I got a job at a place called Daybreak, which is a drug and alcohol treatment center for youth, with 12 to 18-year-olds. That was where I started my journey in education. I didn't know that I wanted to be a teacher at that point, but that was where I started. I don't know how many other people have worked in a drug and alcohol treatment center. When I was in college, I was not necessarily the most strong planner in the world, and I got my degree in sociology. I loved being with people. I loved working with groups of people. My bachelor's is in sociology. It's not in education. When I first got my teaching degree and I was teaching down in Tennessee, my principal, I don't remember why I went back to the school, but I went back at about 11 o'clock at night, and he was there, and I thought, man, I don't want to be a high school principal, work until 11 at night, and here I am, right? But with that being said, some of my strengths, I think, is a variety of experiences coming into this role. I've worked in a few different districts. I've worked in different roles. I've seen from the classroom up to the district office level. Right now, I work in a lot of programs that support students with extra barriers to success. I do believe that I have the ability to relate and connect with people and build trusting teams. I was showing Ron earlier today some of the survey data that I've done of my teams. We absolutely have built trusting and effective teams that I oversee. Part of that comes from the people that we hire, right? We have to hire people who are willing to give trust to others. But I do think that part of that is under my leadership. I'm a pretty calm and level-headed guy, pretty flexible guy, and I want to see our team succeed. I think one of the weaknesses that I would identify is just naturally I have a tendency to be a little quieter sometimes. I love asking questions, as I mentioned earlier, but I do have a tendency to observe, right? And that can come across as maybe aloof or standoffish sometimes. It's not at all the truth. It's not how I am. But being a little quieter and observing can come across that way sometimes. And I think a weakness to be transparent about is I've not been a mid-high principal. I hope you all have seen my resume. I've worked in a variety of roles, but I don't know that I see that as a weakness, but it's something that I'm sure is on people's mind. But I also wasn't a father till I was, right? I wasn't a teacher till I wasn't a federal programs director till I was, and then I did it, right? And we just wrapped up our audit, and we had 0 findings from the state, which was a huge one.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was one of my goals when I came into that role. Is I wanted to make sure we had the best programs in the state. And I don't know if any other districts can say they had 0 findings, but I'm gonna find out. Because I want to know we were the best.
I was gonna say we did last year.
All right. Give us one example each of how you, just one example each of how you have handled a negative behavior in an employee and a student.
I'll start with the employee. We had a situation this well, we have an ongoing situation that I'm working with a principal on, but I'll pick one from one of my direct reports. And I'm trying to filter this so I don't give out too many details because I still want to maintain that confidentiality. But we had an issue with one of my staff and basically clocking time. It appeared that that individual was clocking in from home. It appeared that that individual's time, they were taking advantage of. I work at a different office than where they work, and it appeared that they were taking advantage of that time, basically not being truthful on the hours they were working. I started that by pulling the clocking records and looking week by week what's going on here, and sat down with that individual and said, is there, like, this is what I'm seeing. Is there any reason why this would be the truth and not actually accurate to the hours you've been working? And that individual said, no, that I've worked all those hours. The hours that were clocked are accurate. I still had some hesitations, and we pulled that individual's their login information from their computer and went back and had to look at some of the security camera footage. I hate going to that place because I want to trust my staff. I want to build effective people. But we did have to look at that, and it wasn't truthful. And that individual chose to resign instead of be let go. But that one just happened pretty recently. Generally, though, like, I think when you come back to clear expectations of people, here's what we need from you. Here's how we behave here. Here's how we handle conflict here. You can just address most of those issues before they even come up. But sometimes you can't, and that's that is the nature of work. While you can hit success on 98% of people, there's a couple percentages that you can't always get success on. The students, there's a seventh grader that popped into my head, and we'll call him Johnny for today. Johnny had the most energy of any young man I've ever met. He was every day bouncing off balls. Good kid. Get him out of lunch or recess. He's a nice kid, but you get him into a learning environment, and man, he had a tough time sitting still. One of the things we worked on is just connecting with him. I just built that relationship with him, and then we built a very kind of discrete reminder system for him. We use sticky notes, kind of like these little tabs, and you just set them on his desk, and they would just be a reminder of corrections throughout the day. Hey, right in this class period, I 1, 2, 3 corrections, and if he needed a break, we'd absolutely allow him to take a break. Right, like I told him, you're feeling antsy, tell me. Right, because it's better to have him taking a break than to have a disruption in the learning. And then slow improvement, but it improved right into his 8th grade year. Behavior got better. I do think a lot of that's probably hormones more than anything. But
We have that same kid, we call him Walt.
Yeah. Do you think part of it's in the 7th grade? Your brain is going crazy at that age. But we saw success, and by the time he left our middle school, he was on the right track.
Oh, we're down to 7.
I'm with you.
Please give us some ideas on how you judge your own effectiveness as a principal.
I think the proof is in the pudding, right? I think that if the mission of schools is learning, are students learning? That is absolutely an aspect of evaluation of my own effectiveness. Are we getting the outcomes that we want to see? And at the same time, I think that there are other aspects that are not as easily measurable by an assessment, right? Something like trust is, do we have people that trust each other in school? Can I, as a supervisor, am I seen as somebody who is supportive? Am I seen as somebody who's going to go to bat when their teachers need me to go to bat? Am I seen as somebody who is there for students and actually cares? Those are absolutely things that need to be there. And I think there's some other really tangible things. Are budgets balanced? Do we have staff positions filled? Do we have an onboarding system where people can be bought into the culture of how we do things? Those are absolutely aspects of effective effective management and effective leadership. I'll pause there.
Thank you.
Okay, number 8. What have you found to be the most effective plan in fostering and developing a positive working atmosphere?
The attitudes matter, right? I was actually just listening to a podcast on the way in. And there's a great quote the guy said. He said, in the SEALs, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he said, "We don't care what you could do yesterday, we care what you can do today." Right? And that matters, right? Are we showing up every day? I also believe that generally organizations will take on kind of the demeanor of their leader. If leaders are ready to show up, pull up their sleeves and get to work and be positive in the midst of hardship, I think that staff bring that and see that and are more willing to take that on. I also think that some of the non-work things are just as critical, right? Like we're planning every spring we do a retreat for my team. Call it a retreat. We do basically a celebration for the end of the year, right? Those non-work times matter. The things that we're doing outside of just grading and unit planning and discipline and lunch zones and parent drop off and pick up, like the stuff outside of that where we can connect as people absolutely matters because we bring that into the work environment. So I would say the other part of that is just time. I'm having conversations, sometimes hard conversations, right? Like, what do you expect of me? Or what makes you mad when I'm teaching in the room next to you? You're always doing this thing or saying that thing and that bothers you, right? Like sometimes people don't even know. Oh, I do that and that bothers you? I didn't even know that, right? So having honest conversations and, you know, I would echo back to the military. I think the military, while I'm not a former military person, I think the military gets a heck of a lot right in building effective teams. And I think going through hard things together, arm in arm, moving forward and seeing success through the hardship absolutely builds a positive work environment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What would you do to build support, rapport, and trust quickly?
I think trust initially, trust needs to be, trust is earned, but trust is also given. And I think that is a two-way street, right? So if selected, I would ask that from you all to me. I would ask that from teachers to me, and I would do the same the other way. Right? I trust that our teachers know their students. And I was actually talking to the student panel. Term I learned recently is contextual literacy. It's a big fancy word for knowing the culture and history of a place, right? I don't know that. I haven't lived here. Been in living many, many times, but there's a lot that I don't know. I would also echo back to asking questions. I think one of the fastest ways to learn is to ask questions and listen. And I think that that really builds a lot of trust and rapport. And getting outside of classrooms, right? If I can talk to kids in the hallways, if I can talk to kids after school, before school, I put it in my application letter and I'm absolutely committed to it. The trust and rapport starts before the school year starts. Will absolutely, if selected, go out and talk to community members and families before the school year starts to start to learn about what their hopes and dreams are for their students. It matters, right? Like we got people in every single community that, for the most part, 99% want to see a better life for their children. There's some parents that need a lot of help, but they want to see something better for the children. The question is, how can we as a school system then achieve those dreams together? So time, conversation, questions, and listening.
Thank you.
What do you consider as your most significant accomplishment as an educator or administrator that may not be spelled out in your resume?
Recently, I'd go back to the audit. Man, I felt good. We had 2 issues that the state was like, "Well, we're going to put a finding on this." Like, no, here's why you shouldn't, and you should change that. And then they came back and agreed with me, and I was like, "Sweet, yes, that's an important one for me." My national board certification, I don't think it's on my resume. When I got my national board certification in middle level mathematics, that was a big one for me. That's more so a personal checkbox than anything. There wasn't huge reason for me to do that, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could, that I was an effective educator. And that was an important one for me. Yeah, I'll pick those two. Sure.
Yay. Why do you think this could be the right opportunity for you at this point in your career? And why do you think you might be the right leader for us now?
I've reflected on this similar type of question also, and I hesitate to say the words that pop into my mind because I don't know if it's sacrilege. But there's a quote from a certain book that says that someone was created for such a time as this. And I do feel like my career has really been lining me up in a variety of different places that I do believe that I could be the right person for the job. In what way? I think that I've shown to be an effective leader, as evidenced by the audit, as evidenced by the trust surveys that we've done. There's not a job that I've done yet that I haven't been able to do well. And I don't say that to be arrogant, but I say that to know that I can do the job. Is it going to be hard? Absolutely, it's going to be hard. I think it's probably the second most difficult job in the district. Is it going to be exhausting at times? Absolutely, it's going to be exhausting. Do I have all the answers? No, I don't. But as a team, we do. And, at this point in my career, I think that question is actually more so a family question. My kids are 12 and 9. My mother and father-in-law live here in town. My parents live down outside of Boise where we currently live. So we got one of those two spots. We're either going to be in Libby or we're going to be down outside of Boise. And just thinking about my kids, they're right at that age that if we're going to make a move, it needs to be now. And I don't think this opportunity is going to be open for a long time again. I think you all are going to get somebody and they're going to be here for a while. And I don't want to wait. I think that there's an opportunity here and I'm ready to take the lead.
Okay, the last one here. How would you approach your first 100 days on the job? And how would you generate buy-in from staff, parents, and community members?
I think showing up would be a good start.
Heard about our shop teachers?
Yeah, like I said, conversations are huge. My personal why is I want to see students and adults at this point in my career be able to create a future of hope and opportunity. And I would echo back to what I said earlier. How do we develop a competitive advantage? How do we develop a place where Libby Mid-High is a place where parents want to send their kids? Where homeschool is not even an option that maybe they're considering because the opportunities at Libby Mid-High are more than what we can provide elsewhere. There are absolutely things that public schools can provide that homeschools can't. Things like sports teams, things like welding shops. There are opportunities here at the public schools that maybe a charter school or a private school or an online school or a homeschool environment doesn't have. First 100 days, I would go back to learning. One of the things that I really need to do is understand. I need to hear from students. I need to hear from parents. I need to hear from teachers. Where have we been? Where is the success? Where are the things that we want to grow in? And then from there, it's developing not only a short-term plan, but a long-term plan. There are things that absolutely can change very quickly. We look at maybe our procedures in the hallways, right? Do we have chaos in the hallways? Well, we can address them really, really quickly. One of the things we can do is just get adults out there, right? What does our adult presence look like in the hallways? And there are other things that take time, right? Like changing learning trajectories for students takes time. If you've got a third grader that's reading at a kindergarten level, that kid's probably not going to be on grade level by the time they get to fifth grade. It takes time for that kid to close gaps, right? They're making extra leaps as their peers are making annual grade level growth. One of the things that I would also want to do, and I talked with the elementary school about this a little bit, is I want to make sure that we're aligned K-12. Right? There are great things happening at the elementary school. Those things need to continue to have the conversation. What does that look like in a secondary arena? Does it get applied the same? No, it doesn't. Right? We don't do hugs and bubbles at the middle and high school. But appropriate behavior in the hall matters, right? Appropriate behavior in the cafeteria, the appropriate behavior as kids are coming to school and leaving school. And, you know, as I talked to some students about earlier, is we have to teach our students what those behaviors are. We, they're not adults. They're 12, they're 14, they're 17. Like we talked about already, their brains are absolutely. But really going back to first 100 days, trust is huge for me. Uh, I think that getting a staff that is on the same page as well and really getting that start of what the vision for what we could be building, right? And build that momentum. And I've heard snippets of there are great things happening, right? We don't want to stop the great things happening. We want to build on the great things happening. But there's more to celebrate. Yeah, I'll pause there.
Okay. We appreciate your responses and we would like to thank you for your time and effort in this process. Please provide any additional confidential information you would like us to consider to our search consultant, Andrew, by email within the next hour. And then do you have any questions for us?
I do. It's actually really similar actually to the last question. I think one of the questions that I have back for you is you're looking for somebody, what do you want to see in the first year, first few months? What are those things that would tell you that, yep, we've got the right person in the right seat?
I really appreciated kind of your answer about learning the community, learning the people, because we kind of talked about that. And community is huge for our schools, and we want somebody that is willing to understand and learn how we work in the community.
Yeah, I agree with that, just being visible in the community. It's something that's been brought up before, and we've even, Cody and I were discussing earlier, you have people that have, lived here, not, I mean, not as long as, some people have lived here for life, they're known as people from Libby. But, you have families like Cody's family that's been here for over a decade, but, I would assumed that Cody's been here his entire life. I didn't even know until recently that, so there's the people that go out and try to be part of the community. And I think that's really important, especially for a principal to, it's going to show a lot to the people, the students, the staff, the entire community that, hey, I'm not just here for the job, or I'm not just here to, get that, that time and that experience as a principal. I'm really here. And that's huge. There's a difference between having the job and being here. So I think that's very important those first 100 days.
I think showing up, like you said, your first comment rings very true to all of us. I think it's very important, as Walt just said, and Elida, to become part of the community. It's not always easy to walk into a new community. I think about kids coming in, it's the same for adults coming in. And there is a learning process. So I like the fact that you talk about listening and not just jumping into things. So I think the listening to conversation part and then getting to know the community is the right way to do things.
And our staff, because our staff is important to us. So
Very much so.
I think Andrew said something to us a little while ago that he was looking for a place to eat last night. Couldn't find anything. Everybody in town was at the ball game.
They went there and got a hot dog, Andrew.
Indeed.
I think last question I'd have for you at this point, when was the last time you walked the halls of Libby Mid High? When was the last time you walked the halls or the classrooms of Libby Mid High?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
mine was last week.
Last week.
Mhm.
A lot of kids were there, right?
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, I sat in on a chemistry class.
I think that the staff, the teachers, like even today, I had 2 different groups reach out just with questions, I think that they have confidence in the board, and I think they have confidence in their administrators, especially so at a grade school where they've been there a while, we've had Scott fill it in, but I feel that they feel like they're being heard and that they can ask those questions. And board is very approachable, and we each have our own kind of different groups that will come back and forth. We see them at the ball game and you know, all of that. So yeah, I think we're in tuned pretty well with the schools. I mean,
I think we're all in it together.
yeah,
I really feel that way.
I don't think it's a board you'll find that's not involved oh, I didn't know that was going on. People would have a tendency to get the right folks involved, I think, sooner than probably they should sometimes, you know, not follow the chain of command, maybe, you know, and that's always my first thing. If somebody's complaining about Tom Hams often, you know, not. But I mean, if something were to come up, my first response to that would be, if you spoke with Mr. Gallagher about, you know, first, that's, you know, don't come to the board on your first visit, so.
And it's helpful that we only have 4 schools,
Yeah, it's a
no,
different,
3 schools. And so it's not like you're 11 elementary, so we're able to be more
yeah,
involved.
it's a different vibe for
Yeah.
sure. I think
Yeah.
that, you know, there are things that a large system can do that a small system can't, and there are things that a small system can do that a large system can't, right? There's flexibility within small schools that large systems struggle with.
I can't imagine going through what you went through when funds were cut.
That's hard. Yeah,
Frozen. Pardon
yeah,
me.
that was a hard week going, well, we don't have jobs.
Mhm.
And we're in it together. I don't have a job either. No money for my job. So, but yeah, the combination of that, and I didn't know that was coming, right? That and the audit, I think, were 2 big things. As I look back onto last summer, you know, it was the right decision to not move at that time, and I don't feel like it's the same now. Right? I'm ready to make that jump. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, at this point, does anybody need to take a quick restroom break or anything? Okay, yeah, so we'll just take a quick minute and then we can continue on. Perfect.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, wait, are you raising your hand for a question?
No.
No. I thought you had 2 of them. I'm really.
Please. I'm gonna give it one more second. I did not realize Mr. Goodman was not in here, so
We got time. We're ahead of schedule.
we are ahead of schedule.
He's visiting still.
Okay, well, at this point, we are gonna kind of open discussion about our thoughts. Just a reminder to keep things in the positive light, comments in the positive direction. So I guess maybe let's go ahead and start by maybe going around and giving our top 2 choices, just to kind of open some discussion. That sounds okay to you guys? Okay. BG, let's start with you.
I really appreciate, and I don't mean to sound sexist, but the 2 gentlemen. I think they have very different qualities, very different styles, but I appreciate them both.
I would put Niall first and Bill second would be my choices.
I am in agreement with Ellen. I really appreciated the positivity of Niall. So he would probably be my first choice. And second would be Bill.
But I'll throw again, it's one good.
Absolutely.
I have to agree with you. That's just kind of a bright, shiny spot. Yeah, you would be my number 1 choice and Bill second as well.
I agree with the 2 choices, but I'm still kind of on the fence about which one I'd put first or second right now. Obviously for, you know, different reasons, but I just thought they both did a good job, and they bring a lot of the same traits that we want to see. But I think their approaches that are differently, and I think that could be important.
I'm with the like denial number 1 and Bill number 2. I think go along with Bill either, honestly. I think he was a very good interview. And I really liked his work history. It's interesting.
Mhm.
The dress. Yeah.
Not traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was something I was impressed with too. That, he's got, they all had an impressive history, but his, was a lot out of school.
Mhm.
And then when he got dedicated to it, he advanced fast from being a teacher to going into administration to being an assistant principal. He's, kind of, I like that dedication when someone says they're going to do something and they accomplish what he's accomplished in that short period of time. That's impressive. It's hard to, even just to, find the right school and to, sit in front of a board or a principal and get those jobs. So.
I will say that I do feel like Niall does have the knowledge of school. I mean, in his positions, he seems to know how the programs work, seems to know, he has the knowledge in his corner. So
And I like the way that he's listening to an audiobook right now. He's looking for new knowledge. He's not,
learning.
yeah, he looks and sounds like a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And I felt that same way that he every day is learning something. It's like a mission.
Right.
Any cool. I mean, the books, listening to stuff on. I kind of wonder if his brain ever shuts off.
I was gonna say, because he remembers them all.
Yeah. He's always wanting to learn something. I thought that's pretty cool.
I appreciate the way though Bill knows the territory. He was, from the Flathead area. He was in Libby a lot. I appreciate that because I think as Tony, you and I talk, just about people that come to Libby and think they're gonna just really love it, but they really don't know what it's like. And it, I think you said, Tony, as soon as they found out there was no shopping, they left. Um, so I appreciate that with Bill. I also appreciate with Bill the fact that while he was answering questions, he thought. He gave it time and thought about his answers. He took the longest time, and that affected me right off the bat. I appreciated that. And yet then Niles, I'm just going to say this. I don't think you have to stop me.
He's ready.
Yeah.
He's lunging.
Niles is very polished. Bill was very down to earth. That's the way I see them. I really don't think we could go wrong with either one. I'd love to see them both. Can't we have two administrators?
No,
No, I know we can't. I know, but I mean, I just feel that we would be lucky with either one. I really do. I think we have, thank you, Andrew, found very good candidates.
My pleasure.
I think maybe at this time we can kind of open it up to the public, to the audience, just if you guys have any thoughts or comments.
Some comments. I mean, you're all three. I really felt bad for Heidi. She, how it kind of got mixed up in the schedule. Not be able to go through student panel and interview, but it is what it is. The only one that I have reserves with is Niles because this kid's homeschool. And I think as a leader.
So I don't think we can actually.
Oh, okay.
That's personal information, so we have to be careful on how we.
Okay.
Where his children attend school is personal information.
Okay.
So we have to be careful.
Well, I just have reserves with Niall for different reasons. I guess I can state that in general. But yeah, I think either Niall or Bill would be two like strong candidates.
Okay, thank you. Start with Ron.
I appreciate very much the process as well. My feeling with Niall is he is very knowledgeable, and I think he has really good experience as far as moving things forward. I think he would be a very strong candidate. I I would say you my best choice. Um, and then also the other lady, Miss Fettinger, she seemed like a really knowledgeable person as well. Very good conversation with her. Yeah, that those two would likely top. Yeah, we put Niles as number one.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One question we always asked when I was on the school board, and I don't know if it was legal anymore at the time, today. If we were to offer you the job, would you accept it? You'd be surprised at some of the answers you got. But that was one of our questions that we always asked. Don't know if that ever came up with any of you individuals, but it's a good question.
It is a good,
So
That's a funny thing. I said to my wife that after the breast interview, you really felt like he wanted it. You know what I mean? That's something I got out of from that guy.
you'd be surprised. It was just a question that was part of our vocabulary. Many times we got answers back that kind of surprised you. Just a call. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you.
I guess I listened to all three. I like all three. I guess it's Bill, like yesterday. I think he really loves Libby. He already knows he loves Libby. And I thought I assume Niles is the one that turned it down last time, but it sounds like he had a good reason. I think it took a little bit of guts to come back again afterwards. But I'm curious why you all didn't like. I liked the woman. I thought she was very thoughtful. I liked the way she talked about how she worked with the students and the parents. I'm just curious why nobody picked up on her except for.
I was saying we have to kind of be careful on
Yes.
how we answer that
It wasn't
question,
not,
but
not liking her.
right,
It's just,
yeah,
you
no,
know,
no,
I mean,
yeah.
there's three
Yeah.
qualified candidates up here, and I think, you know,
just some of the answers
yeah,
Just-
it's just
showed a little bit more of knowledge for the subject at hand, not just. Okay, I better not say that. This is hard.
you might want to write
That's
it down
why
and hand it to
I'm
Andrew, and then he'll like.
I'm having a hard.
You
There
guys are
was
so-
nothing
maybe you
against
have to be
her,
here.
Donna. It was just, who did we think stood out the most? And you always have to choose, and that's the hard part.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you couldn't go wrong with any of them, really. But I was kind of surprised that she didn't get any first or second votes.
It's like being on The Voice. Everybody is terrific. How did you choose?
I will say,
Oh, sorry.
I was just, go ahead.
Go-
Go
you
ahead.
go.
Okay, I'm gonna
You
say,
got the
okay.
gavel, you get to go.
I just wanted to say, kind of a play off her comment. I did appreciate how Niall just jumped right in and explained. He didn't avoid that he didn't take the job last year.
Right.
He
Yeah,
just said,
I like that.
this is why, and kind of that white elephant or the elephant in the room
Yeah.
situation. Like I appreciated how he kind of handled that awkwardness by just addressing it. So, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I just want to.
no, I was just gonna say, like, with the two guys, I think, it was like it was already been said. One was a little bit more polished. The other one kind of seemed more like down to earth. And I think that's why they kind of separated themselves a little bit. And Heidi did a great job, but kind of fell in the middle of the really polished, and then the guy that's seems like he really wants it. And so not that the other two seemed like they wanted to, but it's just that was what it was me. It was,
Andrew, is that a question that can be asked anymore? The one that Gary said.
It
would
doesn't
you
appear in
like
the MTSBA bank anymore, and the reason for that is that back when I started at MTSBA, boards were getting into discussions of withholdings and benefits that were on the verge of violating a right of privacy. So at that point, it was pulled from the bank, and we replaced it with a contract negotiation process that sort of keeps that information a little more confidential, so it's not discussed during a public meeting. On the other hand, if somebody does come back with a counter offer that's outside the chair's authority to negotiate, we'll be right back in this room. And you all will have the opportunity to be present during those discussions as well. So what I would say is that we've taken that and put it more under contract negotiations
Which
to
makes
keep
sense.
those details
Mhm.
private.
Thank you.
Yes.
We got the answer, Gary.
Oh, he said negotiation, I question that. We gotta start negotiating now. Iron too.
Well,
I thought it was a pretty solid question, and we got answers that weren't normally ones you think, you know, they had questions for us. As far as the future and all the same questions you're asking. It's,
You spent
you
some
don't know
hours.
what's right or wrong.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Ellen, go ahead.
Scott, you spent some time with all three of these people today. Do you have some feedback for us?
I think you guys are correct. I think one is very polished. And I think one shows the compassion and just I mean, they're all good one, but just, I think Walter, you hit it on the head with the two. You know, an hour of meeting with them in the day and then you guys interview within hours, it's a hard decision to make with with a short time to meet with people, but I mean, I'm not a polished person.
You know,
So I appreciate that.
sorry, that just.
And so, I mean, again, they're all good. I mean, I think both Niall and Bill would do a fine job. I mean, I lean toward more Bill, but that's just, I think it was just a personality of just connectivity, how I would connect with them. So
That was the thing about Bill too, is he seemed like, kind of seemed like he's from Libya a little bit. I don't know if I can say that, but I mean, he just seemed like he kind of fit in right away, because we're not the most polished community either.
there's an experience piece that just concerns me about just
Yeah,
the knowledge of being in the job and just having the experience, especially with Bill. Not been in education a long time. I mean, that would be my biggest, that's his weakness and his downfall.
Yeah, and I think that,
So,
yeah, Niall has that, and that's kind of where I'm like, okay, like, I guess if we're looking kind of for a leader and somebody, like, I appreciate the fact that he has the knowledge, and if parents come to him, he'll be able to answer their concerns and their questions, I guess, so.
I think it's my, make sure that whoever's in that position can support public education when they're sitting in that chair with parents.
Right.
Is my concern.
I just think with Niall, I mean, he has no building administration experience. He has a lot of district grant writing, working with teams, but that is an issue too. For someone to go straight into a principal versus not being assistant, can be a, mystery. Usually you have a principal that's had some years as an assistant prior, but not always. Hopefully he'll enjoy the job. He's very knowledgeable and, like you said, very polished. And but as far as experience on the job, he has zero as an administrator, as a building administrator.
That I seen that too, and that the one thing I did key on though with some candidates that we didn't interview as well in their resumes was how many people are they in charge of? And if you looked at that number, Niall was actually had more underneath him than Plains, Heidi, and the Hot Springs fella and stuff. So you know what I mean? How do you weigh that accordingly? Because even though it's not in a straight up school setting, it's still a lot. It's still more people that you're managing, which I looked at.
It's a leadership role. Yeah.
I'll just comment as a community member and as a former teacher. As a former teacher, my,
Teacher.
pardon me, I guess I'm a present teacher, okay?
Yeah.
As a retired but not quite retired teacher.
In there, Sarah.
And I just can't drag myself away from it. And I've, invested a lot of years as a teacher. What I looked for in a leader was someone who would expect and require excellence of their teaching staff, who would set the bar high and help us achieve that high bar. And there were so many things I appreciated about all three candidates. I appreciate Bill's thoughtfulness. I appreciate his communication skills. They were very strong. The fact that he said that he believed in himself as a communicator because he listens first. That was super important to me and would have been important to me as a teacher. The fact that he listens first. And he modeled that when you ask questions, because he repeated sometimes the questions back to you to make sure he had them correct. And he paused afterwards to think of answers, not because he spent his time listening to the question as opposed to preparing an answer while you were asking the question. So that pause to me was really good listening model. I appreciated that about him. I appreciated his commitment to becoming involved in the community. So those were really positive things from him. From Heidi, I felt like she has a really good grasp on teacher programs and on, like, she talked about the evaluation program. She talked about like in service sort of things. Like, I feel like she is really committed to working with teachers to give them skills to help them become better teachers. And I felt like she really emphasized that, her coaching experience, and truthfully, I think that the principals, I always believed that the principal's main job was to serve the staff, to really see that the staff is doing their job. Their main consideration is the staff, whereas an assistant principal, in my view anyway, their main consideration was relationships with students and discipline issues, whereas the principal's main job was to serve the staff, to make sure that we were attaining excellence. And I felt like she had a really strong grasp on working with staff to help them become better teachers. And then Niall kind of seems like he might be kind of in between those two things. Like, he is working to make himself a better leader all the time. I loved what he talked about, listening to books and doing research and continuing to learn about the best trends in education and the places to go. And he was very concerned about excellence. Like, his best, he said his strength was that this audit came back the way it did, and that he didn't just want it to be good, he wanted it to be excellent. And I think that's a very a strength for him. But he also talked about serving those that worked with him and building trust and building relationships with the community as well. So I mean, I feel like they're all really strong candidates, and I'm gonna be like on The Voice where they say I can't really help you, but there's my thoughts. You guys get to decide. I have to do this. I just thought they were, I don't know that you can go wrong right now. I thought they were all good candidates, which is wonderful for our community. So thank you for that.
I'm at the point, I don't want to tell anybody no. I mean, what a wonderful position to be in.
So I'm gonna be like Carson on The Voice. Who do you pick? TV show. The Voice. You You know, right?
You know what the voice is.
I know what it is, I just don't watch it. usually.
Okay, do we have any other thoughts? Anybody have any more comments?
Or from Tom or Mrs. Goodwill at all.
Sure. I was just gonna not say anything, but
Well, Tom.
I feel they all had their own set of strengths and their own set of places to elevate. I think that Niall has a good idea of the larger context. I mean, especially if he's been in charge of federal programs. I mean, that's a lot of relevant information that will help him in a campus leadership role, but it's not the end all. That's a component. It is a bit concerning to me that he does not have campus experience. Leading a campus is so multifaceted. I think he has good vision and I think he would learn, but I think he'd have learning to do, as we all do. I mean, learning never ends. I mean, he sounds like me. This podcast, this book, that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how I roll. I think I could work well with him. I think I could work well with Mr. Briss. I think he was very thoughtful in his responses. I enjoyed showing him around our school yesterday and the conversations. I think he's very loquacious, makes people feel very comfortable very quickly. That's at least my first impression and the experience that we had at our school. He does come with experience, assistant principal experience, which I feel is vital. If you've never been an assistant principal, you've missed out on a lot of due process. How do you run investigations? How do you ensure families it's communicated timely and consistently and documented? I mean, it's its whole own set of skills that then, like, I support him in that, but he takes the lead and then I am freed up for different things. So, I mean, I was pleased to hear that Mr. Briss has at least 3 years experience on a campus as an assistant because he's got that lens. The Heidi, I'm not sure if she was ever assistant principal. It sounds like she has worn a lot of hats, which would bring great things, I think, to this position. So I think really any one of them would mold into the role. I think you just kind of have to, as a board, consider what would be the best fit for Libby Middle High School, just from what you heard from these candidates in the short time you were with them. Got anything for that?
I was impressed with all three. They did a nice job interviewing. We didn't meet Heidi personally because of conflicts in the schedule today. We did meet both guys, and both of them were very, very good candidates. I felt, and I could work with either one of them with no problem. I do question the not working as a vice principal because I know some days get extremely busy. Where I think I heard Scott say it could be a day from hell. Every once in a while, you are just so busy. Is it ever going to end? And then that's finally there. So you finally get to work through things. So not working through that portion of it, I think that's will be a hardship for him, I would think. But I think he's got enough experience in the bigger picture that could help him as well.
Thank you.
What I'm kind of hearing, and if I'm wrong, and I think I could say this, is listening to. So one of the things when I got on the board, I really wanted to, and I think I've tried to do a good job of it, is talk to the teachers and see what they want, because they are the most, the 7 of us up here, we do our jobs, but at the end of the day, it's nothing compared to what you guys have to do. And I mean, and 2 of you have to deal with 2 of my kids, so I mean, anyway, so what I'm hearing, and if I'm wrong, or if you can say, I kind of feel like the teachers, the people in the buildings, the people that have to work with them, feel all are good candidates, but they feel like maybe more comfortable or could see the advantage of going with Bill. Is just what you might not say that. I'm just, you don't have to agree. I just think on that personable level, just kind of fitting in with the flow of things. That's kind of what I'm feeling from that area. Not necessarily 100%, but just a wee bit.
I got the same impression today. Folks that didn't reach out, they were great candidates. Good job.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
I was surprised that most of the board had Niles as first already and Bill as second. That surprised me.
I just really feel like, again, I do understand the concerns, like, and I can totally understand the not having that, but I guess I just would like somebody to be a leader, and to me, he's just a little bit more of a leader, and he will set, like Sarah said, kind of that bar high, where I think Bill will relate to the staff and community and people maybe a little more. Yeah, so it's hard. Yeah, it is hard because I mean, I go in here thinking, okay, we need a school leader, and I would like somebody that, is gonna push our teachers and push our people a little bit and make them want to be better, because obviously he is that type of character, and I could see him kind of pushing a little bit just in for excellence rather than just kind of melding in with what we're already doing. Not that we're not doing things great, because I really do. I support you all and
I
understand.
know what you
but
mean.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
I guess that's just kind of where I guess my thoughts are. But
Mhm.
yeah.
I just wanted to briefly say to the board, it sounds like there might be a motion soon. I don't know if I'm misinterpreting that, but I wanted to let you know I have emailed you the preferred wording of a motion. And in case it helps you focus your discussion at this point, I might just read it to you, so that we're all on the same page. It's a fairly complicated motion because you have
It
previous
sure is.
customized terms from other contracts that were offered to principals in the school district. The motion would be, I move that we authorize MTSBA to offer the position of principal to candidate X. Obviously, you would insert the candidate you prefer at a salary of X. And just to remind you, the position was posted from 90 to 110 grand. With similar terms to other recently issued principal contracts. The offer is contingent on successful return of a criminal background check and ratification by the full board. I further move that we authorize Chair Snow to engage in contract negotiations in consultation with legal counsel. And by the way, I wanted to shout out Ron there as well. If you want to defer that same authority to Ron and Chair Snow so that we can collaborate on the form of contract, that might be best. It's not customary, but I do know that Ron has a deep knowledge of your previous practices in this area. Obviously, if you were to offer the position to a candidate and they were to come back and say, no, I want 30 grand more, we'll be right back here. You're not deferring authority to your leadership team to give away the house, right? We have boundaries on our authority to engage in those negotiations, and we will respect that. If we hear something that we believe exceeds our authority, we would not take that burden upon ourselves. We'd come back to you all.
Yeah.
Have you heard back from the faculty teams and student teams that spoke with the candidates? Did you get any feedback from them?
I did not personally. Tony, did you hear from some?
Yeah, and I didn't bring anything because I wasn't quite sure if it was legit or not.
Well, I have all the feedback because I kind of organized it and was there. But I don't think it's fair to present because Heidi didn't get the chance to have.
That was the only other reason too. And I wasn't sure whether or not it.
And you all received the results of the community survey that was conducted as well. So you have conducted significant outreach in addition to all the public comment you're receiving now and the public comment that will be called for before you take a vote.
And
Just out of curiosity, on the negotiation side of that. Sure. If one, say we offered it to one candidate, cause there is a window there, right, 90 to 110 or whatever.
Yeah.
Say we offered it to one candidate and they did, and it wasn't enough. Say we said, oh, we'll give you 100 and they want 110. So then it would go to the second candidate. We would choose the number 2 spot or something if it was declined.
We have not done ranked choices typically. We try to keep it simple with one motion per candidate, right? Given that you might have a situation where there is a counter, I wouldn't put the other candidates off immediately. I would let them know. I would say, thank you for your participation. At this point, the board has chosen to make an offer to another candidate. That offer hasn't been accepted at this point, so we sort of keep them on the burner in case the negotiation falls through, and we have to be back here to potentially make an offer to a different candidate.
Can comments be made that were given to me by Rob since he's not here today?
Yeah, depending on the content of those comments, no matter what.
Very, just about what we've been talking about.
Right ahead.
Rob was the one that said yesterday to me how much he liked Bill because he was, first of all, he mentioned that he listened, first, and then he also said he questioned, and I'm sorry he's not here to hear that Niles answered the question why he would come back again and reapply. I am so sorry he's not here to hear this because, like you said, Elida, Niles did attack that immediately, the elephant in the room. So anyway, he was very drawn to Bill, but I wonder what he'd feel like today after. It's hard. You've done a hard thing for us. How wonderful.
You're down to 2.
Yes.
I'd say. Yeah, it's a difficult job. You guys had an excellent field.
Okay, I guess, do we feel like somebody's ready to make a motion? I mean, how do we want to go about, can we just jump in and make a
Complicated motion.
Right, a complicated motion. I guess, does anybody have any more thoughts before we jump into one? Did you guys get the email? Or
Sorry, what'd you ask?
I just wondered if anybody had saw the email that he sent the actual motion, or if we needed,
I haven't.
okay.
I watch you read it though.
Okay, gotcha, you got notes.
So if we make a motion, do we say X?
No, you have to say.
Well, but salary of X.
Yes, you would.
Name the person.
No, you would state 90 to 110.
Well,
Is that
no,
what it
you would state a dollar amount. If you
Yeah.
state a range, it doesn't really advantage the negotiation group.
So we
because-
have to talk about what we would offer.
Yes.
So that's another discussion to have
You're correct.
before
I thought
we
we
do
could do
this.
the range.
Okay.
So how does that, I have a question then, how does that work with our salary schedule? Cause we have a,
Matrix.
we have a matrix of how that is.
Don't we have the
With years of
salary schedule?
experience and responsibility. How do
So
we do
so
that?
the public posting reflected $90,000 to $110,000. If your administrators do have a salary matrix, we would need to talk about that and review it.
Why?
We have a copy of that.
Do you have a copy of that matrix?
Thank you,
I
Walter.
do, I have all my notes on it.
Okay, that's okay. Well, and that would depend on which candidate it is.
It's got my
I
map
have
on
to
it.
know that first.
Yeah, she walks, should be where if. I was looking into one thing. And so I thought to the- But this is the base payment. That would be your base pay, and then there's your responsibility factor, And then depending on your experience, you would add that.
That's what I'm
So-
saying on how, when you had said that we would include them,
I
the amount in
I
the
had no
budget.
idea you guys had an administrative bargaining unit. That's an important piece of information.
Well, I don't really have bargaining, we don't bargain anything, it's based off
Basically,
of.
the talks you have, you guys engage in it.
So we,
Like collective bargaining group. Or group.
okay,
Yeah.
so we don't with administration, we do with the LEA, the teachers and stuff, but.
And it's not tied to
It's-
the CBA.
So the principal would be excluded from your CBA because
Yes.
it has that
Yes.
supervisory exclusion.
Right.
Um,
And that's where I think the responsibility factors, correct me if I'm wrong, come in, to
so
that.
these are all from
and
the
then
teachers CBA.
No,
Not, it's not really.
so this is how they figure out our salary matrix.
Mhm.
It's not part of a CBA. But it is based, like if we give the CBA, if we negotiate 3% raise, these guys also get a 3% raise sort of situation.
So it's tied.
Yeah,
but
they're
not
tied together.
All right, let's have a look here. So looks like 87,200 would be the base. And then depending on experience, number of years as an administrator, there's an additional amount here.
Years of experience, and this is the responsibilities.
So should we take Nile first?
That
So-
was.
So it looks like Nile plugged into the salary schedule would be at $104,500. And then Brist,
How many years of admin experience did you have? Three. So
Wasn't it three?
he'd be starting
Yeah,
at 4
three.
years, so
Yeah.
you would, say that, I don't know. You want me to go run the math? for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our numbers, girls.
Intermission.
Are you seeing the Jeopardy song?
Well, yeah. Well, that's
How
what I
many
wondered.
years did Brist have?
Three.
And then how about Benjamin?
Bettinger had 1.5 as principal.
Can we confirm that?
And Dial was at 0 for principal.
0 for, was he in admin?
Yes, he
Yeah.
was district admin,
Mm-hmm.
but not building. But that would be like superintendent, so I would consider.
I would
think
consider that experience, and he had 8 years.
He had one moment.
Now you're earning your money, right? We made it too easy for you before.
Well, I thought we'd better know that information.
Well, and I thought we could do a
Well, and I,
range, so I
Mhm.
guess that's where I
yeah,
apologize for not understanding that.
He listed teacher 6, principal 0, superintendent 0, superintendent / principal 0, and other 8 listed as district office administration, various roles. And I would
Okay,
concur.
that's up to you.
Yeah,
If you wanna consider that admin.
I would concur with that.
Okay. Yeah, all right, I'll be right back.
You should have brought her calculator to
Yeah.
the meeting.
I'm gonna take a break.
Okay, we'll take a quick break.
and do something, yeah.
Stand in front of the heat.
I don't know if we need to get up in your jumping jacks or.
You don't want me to do jumping jacks.
No, that might delay it. They might have to take you to the hospital. No, none of that crazy business.
Oh, and look, this is hard. I just don't want to say no to anybody.
No, but we.
That's a wonderful place to be. I mean, it really is.
Most places my taste buds are shot right now. So sweet, that's, yeah, sweet, tastes salty, salty doesn't taste like it. This morning,
I mean, not in this particular instance, no specifics, but do you think, oh, that's a.
I like things that happen during the interviews. I don't have anybody that I feel because I sort of have that legal internally, but
Right.
some brilliant interviews. You had some of those inspiring things that were said, like things that were like fundamental here to make sure out.
Right. Right, yes, I agree. Trimble. Trimble.
Actually give you a list of food that you can eat with other food.
I thought that might be a good thing to know.
What do you guys, what is your current CBA health and coverage for teachers? Because I saw that you offer the same thing to principals. Is it full family?
Oh, Dr. Stacy question too. Ron might be able to answer that, but
65%.
60, okay, that's what I thought was the number. We cover 65%. We used to cover. Then that got real expensive.
Yeah.
Insurance goes up every year, and so that was a negotiated situation prior.
We were the sacrificial lamb when the state health trust came up. Our executive director wrote the health trust because it's a big deal. We've been trying to do health insurance for teachers for years and years and haven't been able to get it done. Part of the deal with the legislature was that all of the employees at the association couldn't benefit from whatever occurred.
Oh,
We were kicked out of the state health trust. We took the bullet and would again, like easily to get it done. But now we're looking at getting full family through Blue Cross Blue Shield and looking at basically a 40% increase in the cost.
Oh, Andrew.
That's covered. It's really.
But it was passed.
But it was, and we thank you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many years that's been talked about. I mean, way back when I was.
Hey, who knows? Maybe in the next 4 years we could get state funding for early childhood as well.
It
Been
just-
trying on that for at
I didn't
least
think it
15.
would ever happen.
Yeah.
And it seems so sensible.
Yes, sir.
Here's an illustration. But 0 years, I just wait, yeah, 30 years, just 0 lessons. So.
Don't touch it. Ellen has control. Don't stand there and soak up this. She is not sharing, let me tell you. Although this side is warmer than this side. I know, Ellen, I know. It's coming right to you.
Thank you. You're welcome. So these are our numbers.
If you want to read those out, Madam Chair, go right ahead. That's
So, okay. If we, and I can repeat this when the time comes, but if we offer the contract to Niall Trimble, it will be at 104,500. Brist, it'll be 103,000. And Fettinger, it would be 102,500.
Bill was only 103, there was no 500. That's what I thought. Read those one more time, please.
Trimble,
Mhm.
104,500.
Mhm.
Brist, 103,000. Fettinger, 102,500.
Did you eat all those?
I did. Yeah. Use the email one. It's one.
That does not include benefits.
No,
it does not.
Yes.
I was like,
No, I'm sorry, I'm getting into other things. I just.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Your most recently issued principal contract
So.
include the same coverage as your teachers unit.
The rest of that.
We ready for a motion then?
I think so. If you guys are ready, I am ready.
Okay, well, I move we authorize MTSBA to extend an offer for the position of principal to candidate Bill Brist at a salary of 103,000, was it?
Yeah.
With similar terms to other recently issued principal contracts, this offer is contingent on the satisfactory results of a criminal background check and the ratification by the full board. I further move that we authorize Chair Snow to engage in contract negotiations in consultation with legal counsel. And should we add Ron to that?
If you guys, do you guys want to add Ron with that also? With myself
I
or,
think we do.
okay,
With
yes,
the help of Ron Goodman,
there you
if
go.
needed.
There you go. I'm okay with that.
Nothing wrong with talking about you.
I'll second it.
Okay, so at this point, do I read?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion by Walt and a second by Tony to offer the contract to Bill Brist with all the extra stuff. At this time, I open it back up for public comment. No? Okay. Then all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Who said aye?
For opposed,
Yeah.
Ellen and Cody, I believe, right?
All right.
Okay, so,
Madam Chair. Oh, go on. Sorry.
yes,
That's why I would thank the board for all its work and appreciate, I think that the decision's great. We'll live with that. That's not, but I appreciated how you guys work together on that. So thank you very much for.
Do we get a raise?
I was gonna ask that same question, Eugene.
100%.
Yeah.
Another raise of 100%, thank you.
yeah.
Madam Chair, I have two housekeeping items. The first is that your question sheets that you've done today, if you could pass them down to the clerk to be scanned, we will need to retain them in case there's any sort of public records request. Once they're scanned, you can have them back, throw them away, whatever you want to do with them.
I need to keep them there. I need to keep them for 3 years,
Correct. Yes.
whatever.
And I will hold on to them as well.
Oh.
And with that, I'm gonna go right out and call Bill so he hears it from me first and get on the road. I'll also prepare the draft contract for Chair Snow and for Ron, and we'll go from there. So, thank you,
Do
everyone.
we wait and see if he says yes?
Oh,
Just like Gary said.
Never know.
Yes, yes, I will communicate with the board promptly about how he
I
responds.
can't imagine that he won't, but
Both-
I hadn't
both
thought
can-
about it until Gary said that.
I'm gonna get on the road and give Bill a call.
So I do,
Thank you. and
I do need a motion to adjourn.
I still move.
I saw, oh.
I have a motion by Deacon and a second by Ellen to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Right, same. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks for your help. Nice meeting you. Yeah.
Thank you,
See
Andrew,
whatever
very
it is.
much.
Yeah.